Hi and welcome to PlayStation Plus One. Today we are playing Tekken Revolution on the PlayStation 3. This is an online only game, free to play, or what we, from my perspective, I would call that a freemium game. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. It's obviously a long-running franchise, Tekken. So this one's really interesting and different because it's one of the first console freemium games available. My background actually, from a professional standpoint, is I work in advertising and more recently worked for a social gaming company that kind of focused primarily on freemium type games. And just to explain what freemium is for those who don't know, it's basically free-to-play games where the core concept or the core part of the game is free-to-play. However, there are options to kind of purchase in-game, and that's how the game kind of generates revenue. So it's through in-game currencies, in-game purchases, buying additional content, buying additional boosters, etc., etc. So, and it's quite interesting for console developers to kind of decide to go this way because obviously historically all games pretty much up until I guess the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 period were you buy kind of a £40 or $60 or whatever it is game, and then you pretty much have access to all of that game. So the whole kind of, and obviously since 360 and PS3 you kind of have the introduction of DLC, which kind of started off badly, but I think as all things, consumers kind of got used to it, and I think prices were adjusted accordingly based off, I think, user response and user feedback. So we now feel a bit more comfortable with DLC than we were when the beginning of kind of the Xbox 360's kind of launch. So for a company like Bandai Namco, who have been kind of fairly successful on the mobile tablet front in terms of providing kind of these type of games, for them to kind of actually launch a free-to-play game on a console where majority of its library is the standard, purchase the game, and I guess now you have the option to buy additional content afterwards. It's quite brave. I think they're in talks of doing this same model with Soul Calibur. I think they're pretty close to launching. And some of their other kind of titles. I think there's an Ace Combat game that's also free to play. It's coming out soon. So they're definitely kind of seeing it as a new way of generating revenue. And I think a lot of people, I guess who would consider themselves hardcore gamers would probably feel a bit opposed to this because they're kind of happy with paying the 50, 60 odd pounds for the idea of something that is conceptually free but can have quite high sometimes in-app purchasing within the game, and that can sting the user. So I can understand the apprehension to want to kind of get into that. And there are, and I can be completely honest with you, having worked at a social casual gaming company who works purely on freemium, that as free as the game is, and we always kind of announce, we knew after determining when the user is more likely to transact and therefore become an acquired user. It's very kind of technical, and it's not a simple thing as, well, okay, we'll just stick a button here and stick a massive pop-up that says buy, because most users are opposed to that and it doesn't really convert very well, and there's a whole load of stats behind it. So there's a lot more thought gone into it than than what most people would perceive. And actually, in most instances, actually companies make more money when they work in this kind of freemium methodology as opposed to the standard 60 pounds one-off purchase, because the user can kind of buy little bits of in-game content, and they don't, and as the game continues to evolve, because they're only giving you a certain amount of gameplay for free, they can continue charging you, and sometimes you'll end up paying more than 40 or 50 pounds than you probably would have. Is that fair? From my standpoint, nothing's free, and I think it's completely fair that if you decide to play a free-to-play game, you're paying, someone's worked really hard on creating this content for you, this game for you. So it's only fair that you pay back in either in-app purchases, and if you're opposed to that, then kind of through advertising or sponsorships. And as long as it's not intrusive, and I think most people are happy with the fact that as long as it's not intrusive, and as long as it's very clear in terms of when they want you to purchase something, and that you can clearly walk away and not feel like, oh, they kind of stole my money without me even knowing about it. I think as long as it's very clearly signposted, I think most people are happy with that. And that kind of brings us into Tekken, whereas I've kind of played this game probably about 20 times or so. And at the moment now, like I mentioned, this is an online game, so I'm kind of in the lobby waiting to get connected to an opponent for an online match. But I've played this game and I've never felt that the in-app purchases or anything like that has been forced upon me. There is a limited roster, and it's my understanding that you can purchase, I think, additional characters, and you can buy new hats and clothing, and I wouldn't be surprised if you can kind of buy things that would help you in the actual match that wasn't purely kind of decorative. And that's fine, but I feel like I've played enough of this game, and I've kind of had some fun with it, and I've kind of played enough of it, and I've not paid a single thing. So me, from a consumer standpoint, from a user, from a gamer, I'm completely happy with this, because I don't think I would have actually gone out and purchased the next Tekken game. I played Tekken 6, wasn't really had fun with it. I really liked Tekken 5 on the PS2 and Tekken 3 on the PS1. And this game, in terms of balance and in terms of I guess even graphics as well, it just feels probably like a more complete game than Tekken 6 was, despite it missing the whole load of content that you would get in a fully fledged £60 game. And to be honest, with fighting games, if you're really into fighting games, and even if you're kind of the percentage of fighting fanatics who kind of watch the Evo tournaments and all that kind of stuff, you're not really into the games, kind of mini games and all the movies and watching the theatres and collecting the gallery pictures and all that kind of stuff. You really want to just play the fighting game. And as simplistic as that need is, I think that's kind of supported well in this structure, and I think that's probably why the Xbox One's is testing the waters with kind of the Killer Instincts game, because they know how the fighting game community typically works. They typically play a couple of characters, so it works for them to kind of have a game where they feel like they'll make money that way. So we don't seem to be connecting with anyone, which is a bit unfortunate. Not surprising, because where I happen to live, which is a little bit outside of London, my internet connection is terrible, so it's probably why I'm not connecting with anyone, unfortunately. And so I don't get to show you what Tekken Revolution is actually about. However, it's given me the opportunity to obviously kind of talk about the basic fundamentals and how Tekken Revolution works. So I guess that's kind of the most that I wanted to kind of say and delve into. I think we kind of had a good I had a good discussion, or kind of brain thoughts in terms of free to play and its future. And I guess my summary of all this is that I actually think that this model could work. I'd be happy to see a lot of future games use this model, but it has to be the right type of game. I think fighting games, racing games to an extent, probably work quite well with this. I think a game like Gran Turismo, where the last Gran Turismo game I played was on the PS2, what kind of puts me off the game was how simulation it is, but also just how many, just the amount of cars that are available, and I kind of want to just play the fastest car. I don't really want to see all of the trucks and all the other kind of weird cars that they've got in there. I just want to play the fast cars and then be done with them. And so a freemium model where they kind of give me 3 cars to play with, and if I want to buy the really fast car, I can buy that and play some of the tracks, then that would make me more than happy. So I think that's fine in that respect. I think if you have something like Skyrim, I don't think it works that way. Works very well, to be honest. Just think about having to purchase the fact that you want to kind of access a certain area of the map or something, and I think that I think is actually disingenuous to the user if you do something like that. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what I have to say about Tekken Revolution. So thank you very much for watching, listening, and keep it +1.